You are now listening to the War Report Podcast Network.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the College Loop Podcast. I'm Larck. I'm watching on Twitter. Hey, talking to Liz, Auburn Athletics News. Auburn is 1-0. College Loop has a new background for the post-game show and a little soft launch of a potential logo that I've been planning out, but I thought it looked good for what this background is. Auburn football is 1-0. 38-24 win over the Baylor Bears, and I'm a little annoyed. And the annoyance comes from the fact that I predicted 34-24. I'm mad about that. I was 4 points from getting this right. But regardless, Auburn looked good. And to get to my initial thoughts of it, I really loved how everything looked coercive on offense. There was a plan ahead of time to throw the ball early. Like, Auburn wanted to throw the ball. And Baylor kept running two high safeties and tried to shut down the passing game. And what did Auburn do? It was beautiful. They adjusted. They adjusted to what Baylor was giving them and ran the crap out of the ball. 51 carries as a team as opposed to 17 passing attempts. That's ridiculous. That is not something I expected whatsoever going into this game. I remember I talked about it 2 episodes ago whenever Dave Aranda was doing his press conference, and he mentioned, Auburn's going to run the ball up the middle, so we need to adjust for that. And I was like, oh, no, Auburn's going to try to pass the ball. Well, I'm stupid because Auburn ran the mess out of the ball. And despite Baylor saying that they were ready for the run game, they were not. Jackson Arnold had himself an absolute day. 16 carries, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 11 of 17 passing, and 108 yards through the air for him as well in his Auburn debut. Now, again, I am stoked about this game. I'm stoked about this weekend. Any weekend where Auburn comes out on top and looks great doing it, and then Alabama goes on the field and looks like a G5 team against FSU. Love it. Love this weekend so much. Just some more initial thoughts. Love to see Alex McPherson back on the field. Kicked the ball extremely well. Only had one attempt as a field goal, but it was. Those shorter kicks always feel like gimmies, but whenever it's like on the right or left hash, you always think the kicker might just misadjust. But Alex McPherson, again, just an absolute dog. Perfect on the day, 1 of 1, kicking field goals, and then, of course, 5 of 5 on extra points. Auburn scored 5 touchdowns in this game, which I'll get to the 4th one and the 5th one in a second, or whichever number it was. But punting-wise, Hudson Cock looked decent. Only had to punt 3 times. Only had to punt the ball 3 times. That is something, again, stuff I was not expecting to say on this post-game show, that Auburn only had to punt the ball 3 times. I was expecting this to be a closer game than it was. Of course, Auburn's defense was trying to make it a lot closer than it needed to be, but I'll get to that whenever I get to the defensive parts of the show. But I just want to go into the offensive showcase, the run game. Have to enunciate on that so very much. I do, before I do the run game, because it's just the bulk of the offense from this past game. I do want to say it was nice seeing a attempt to get the ball out when Auburn wanted to pass. And the thing is, Auburn didn't need to pass or have to pass. They just wanted to. And whenever they needed to pass, they made the play. Malcolm Simmons was the leading receiver, 1 catch, 26 yards. Cam Coleman, 1 catch, 23 yards. Eric Singleton, 3 catches, 20 yards, which it did seem Eric Singleton was a massive part of not only just this game, but also Baylor was ready for Eric Singleton. They did everything they could to adjust to wherever Eric Singleton was. And I don't think any play is more evident than I think it was Jackson Arnold's first touchdown run, if I'm not mistaken, or one of his bigger runs that he ran. It was a little screen in a way. Oh, where's your screen? Fake it Derek Singleton and then toss it back to him whenever he gets by him. Baylor had it locked up. Well, guess what? The box was completely empty. And the hole the offensive line made was completely open. And the Jackson Arnold just took it and went with it. But yeah, I love seeing how Eric Singleton was incorporated in this offense. Ratio Fields got 2 catches, 17 yards, and one on a miraculous third and long, which again, something I've mentioned all offseason. Ratio Fields is going to be that guy whenever Auburn needs a for sure pair of hands. Horatio Fields has the best hands on the team, and I will die on that hill. Brendan Frazier got a couple of catches for 15 yards. Preston Howard got himself a catch for 7 yards. I do believe the first catch of the game for Auburn was by Preston Howard. And Jeremiah Cobb did get himself a catch, but did not get any yards on that. Auburn had no turnovers on the day. There was a fumble, but Auburn did not lose it. It was just one of those moments where you just look at your quarterback and you're like, you got to take this, take the sack. Guy was coming and he's about to get hit. Jackson tried to throw it to, I believe it was either Cobb or Preston Howard. Either way, I think Preston Howard came back for the ball and Jeremiah Cobb ended up getting it. But yeah, it was a good heads up play by Preston Howard and Jeremiah Cobb to get the ball back. But just one of the only mistake I would say that Jackson Arnold made was just, not taking that sack there. But again, Auburn didn't lose that fumble, so I'm not going to be too upset about it. So now we move on to the run game. Dude, 16 carries by Jackson Arnold, 137 yards, 2 touchdowns. Damari Alston, 16 carries, 84 yards, and a touchdown. Jeremiah Cobb, 16 carries, 74 yards, and a touchdown. Derek Singleton, 2 carries, 10 yards. And Darrell Robertson got in for a play whenever Damari got a little banged up for a play. Auburn ran the ball with absolute force. And it's something I love that we can talk about because Auburn wanted to pass the ball in this game, and they adjusted to what Baylor was giving them. And Baylor, for some reason, never adjusted to what Auburn was doing. So, again, Jackson Arnold made a lot of great plays. And again, I think some of these run plays he had, and I want to say it was like a 7-yard rush. It was like his first one. And after that, I think it clicked in him that Baylor was letting him open. They like Baylor's not aware that I can run the football. And then I almost said Gus Malzahn, but Hugh Freeze saw that. And one of my favorite things that I heard Hugh Freeze say in the post-game presser was on like the 4th and 1 call that Auburn went for it and got the touchdown on. I think he said Deuce Knight was in his ear, like saying, let Jackson take this. And I just love the family atmosphere that quarterback room has. Like they are all like Ashton Daniels is in this too. They're all just all hyped up for each other. Deuce Knight was all over his Instagram story with Jackson Arnold, the walking your trap, talking your trap. This team was awesome to watch. And again, if they continue to play like this, they're going to be good. They're going to be really good. Damari Alston with his 16 carries, averaged 5.3 yards per carry, ran the ball extremely well, ran it tough too. And Damari Alston kind of adopted the Thunder role here. And, he's not going to be the getaway speed guy that Jeremiah Cobb has when it comes to open space and just acceleration. He's going to be your bruiser back out of this room. And we saw that on display. Baylor was bouncing off of him. And Damari Alston had himself a day. I don't know if it was a career day for Damari. I would have to go back and look and make sure of that. But definitely a good standout performance from Damari Alston. Jeremiah Cobb, with his 74 yards, averaged 4.6 yards per carry. I think also showed a lot of toughness. His touchdown, he carried a 400-pound man on his back as he crossed the plane. And again, even the commentators, which I'm going to give a lot of props here to Robert Griffin III. Whenever he got announced as a commentator, I got so worried that Auburn was going to be absolutely just pooped on by the commentators the whole time. And Robert Griffin III was actually pretty good in this game. And I'm pleasantly surprised by it. And, I have a lot of respect for Robert Griffin III for that. Because I think there's a lot of players out there who shouldn't be commentators because of how they talk about their former teams. Aaron Murray comes to mind right away. Aaron Murray was awful. He did an Auburn Georgia game one time, and I swear that man said "we" about 85 times in reference to Georgia. So yeah, Robert Griffin III understands the etiquette of it, and a lot of respect. I understand the other guy. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. He was like pushing the Robert Griffin III Baylor stuff, but RG3 would talk about it and then go on to what Auburn's doing well. And again, some of the stuff that I have issue-wise with this, and I know it feels like a lot of positive stuff that I'm talking about, but I think a lot of the negative stuff comes up next with the defensive side of the football. Oh my God. If there was one thing I was not expecting was, I guess there was a couple of things. I was not expecting Auburn to be a run the rock the whole game team. But I was not expecting this defense to look as awful as it did for a little bit. And, of course, adjustments were made defensively to kind of shut down what they were trying to do. But there was a lot of things where, I was a little worried about this defense. On the day, just kind of go over some guys who made an impact. I mean, Keldrick Falk, as always. Kieran Crawford led the team with tackles and got himself a sack. Robert Woodyard led the team in TFLs. And then, of course, you had Kendrick Fox had a pass deflection. Caleb Harris had a PBU. And I think Champ Anthony had a PBU as well, which Champ Anthony, what he was able to do versus Trigg was awesome in the end zone to really made an impact on the game. Auburn did not have an answer for the slant route or anything that involved Trigg outside of that one Champ Anthony play. Cole Wilson on Baylor led the team in receiving yards, 8 catches, 134 yards. Michael Trigg, the tight end, that big tight end, 7 catches, 99 yards, and a touchdown. Ashton Hawkins, 4 catches, 70 yards, averaged 17.5 yards per catch. Josh Cameron made a big play at a couple of them, actually, 27 yards per catch for him. Kobe Prentice made a big play for them, getting them their touchdown. And Caden Knighton also got one as well. The defense had some struggles. And a lot of that came to penalties, tackling, and adjusting. And the good thing is for Auburn is they have Ball State this week and they have South Alabama next week. And based off of the performances I heard from them this weekend, it definitely should be pick up your litter kind of game. You need to start adjusting to what you're going to see in week 4. And you need to start making tackles. You need to start adjusting to, inside routes. There was a lot of penalties in this game that Auburn committed, and I want to say a lot of them were defensive penalties. And I was shocked to see that the special teams did not make a penalty on one of their plays we're going to talk about in just a second. But Auburn had 9 penalties for 83 yards, and I would say about 7 of those were from the defense. And it was not good. Auburn was giving up big plays very often. Sawyer Robertson threw for 419 yards and 3 touchdowns, which, I mean, at the end of the day, you won the game. But it became way too easy for them to pass the ball. And, they kind of moved away from the running game they wanted to do. Bryson Washington, 14 carries, 54 yards. He made some plays, but ultimately Auburn had him on lock for the most part. But they just passed the ball the rest of the day. They ran the air raid attack that they wanted to run or half run because they do a special kind of air raid where they run it and pass it deep. But Auburn needs to make those adjustments in mid-game. And again, I trust Dita Durkin to be able to get this fixed, and Crime Dog, to fix the secondary, because the secondary did not look good. Secondary was giving up big plays left and right. I think the linebackers played pretty well. The D line definitely played well. And that's something I forgot to mention with the offensive line. Auburn won in the trenches on both sides of the football. Stopping the run from Baylor. And, of course, I gotta give a lot of praise to this offensive line. I hate that it completely blanked on me. Xavier Chaplin Jeremiah Wright, Connor Liu, Dylan Wade, and Mason Murphy. And I know I didn't say that completely right. And I wish I need to go back and just get all the snap counts for everybody. Minimal penalties. I mean, there was a couple false starts. But I'm not mad about the offensive line. They played great. They absolutely bodied Baylor's offensive line. And that was evident in the run game. Auburn's defensive line, Keldrick Falk, and, everybody else, Kieran Crawford, dude, everybody played last night. I saw Jared Smith in a play. So there was a lot of emphasis on the oars of that depth chart. I think the D-line played extremely well. It was just that back part of the defense where I was a little worried. A lot of shoulder tackles that were just trying to shove them down, arm tackles, a lot of those. And again, Michael Trigg is a big dude. Michael Trigg is a big dude. I wonder if I'm going to pull up his ESPN profile real quick, just so I can. 6'4", 240 as a tight end. That's a big dude. And I saw on several occasions whenever he got the ball, people were just lowering their shoulder and just trying to hit him and see if he would go down. That's not going to work. That's not going to work. And again, Auburn has played guys that big before at different positions. I mean, Derrick Henry comes to mind right away. Auburn, you can't tackle a guy that big and that fast and that athletic with your shoulder. You need to get down and you need to hit him low. And Auburn was not doing that. There was a lot of shoulder tackles that, kind of left me a little worried at the end of this game. One guy I'm gonna give a lot of praise to. I think Xavier Atkins played very well. I think he had the most snaps out of any linebacker. I was kind of shocked that Caleb Wheatland didn't get in more, but I guess he's not with the team as long as the other guys. But Xavier Atkins played extremely well. Robert Woodyard played well. Made some plays in open space that he needed to make. But Eric Winters, shout out to him coming in tied for fourth in tackles in this game. But yeah, you got to fix the tackling issue. It was a major tackling issue for Auburn, and it was extremely worrisome as we get ready for the remainder of the season. I need to see if I can pull up any more defensive stats here. I have the StatCast over here that I'm missing. Quarterback hurries. Auburn had 3 sacks. Auburn had 4 in this game, which I'm happy to say that Keldrick Falk was able to get one of the sacks, and I mentioned it earlier just because, I would hate I've already predicted him to break the sack record, so I need him to be on pace for that. Auburn had 5 TFLs. Chris Murray had himself a great play. Amaris Williams did look like he got back in after getting hurt, so that's a major win for Auburn. I believe that's Anquan Fegans got in for a tackle. Jacquez Robinson, I was shocked to see. Jacquez Robinson, I was not expecting to make as big of an impact as he did. Yeah, I feel like he made a lot of those, some big time tackles, but also I think he made a lot of the mistakes that I can remember. I can remember seeing 5 not having such a great game. But again, I think there's a lot to build on here for Auburn, and that's a good thing. And that's one thing. Whenever Auburn plays like a G5 team, and that's going to be the next 2 weeks here, the postgame show gets boring because we're talking about stuff Auburn has done great. And Auburn was great on offense, but there's a lot of fix on defense. As a performance, offense gets an A. Offense gets an absolute A on this game. The defense is going to get a C, or maybe even a high C, low B is where I'm thinking. They did make some adjustments later in the game and were able to lock down Baylor whenever they needed to, especially like those 4th down stops. The one inside the goal line, like those deserve respect, but like the missed tackles, the penalties, it's going to lower your grade a little bit. I'm gonna go with a B-. I'm gonna go with a B-, and it'd be like an 80. It's like you're almost at the C range. Special teams. Let me get into special teams real quick. Okay. I was pleasantly surprised with Hudson Cock and his ability to punt the ball. He had one bad punt, I think, early, but then he had 2 very good ones. And one of them, he got them down inside the 20-yard line. Good game for Hudson Cock. And if any game where Auburn doesn't punt the ball 8 times, I'm happy. 3 times is really good for Auburn. After Fearson, again, 1 field goal, made it, and also got 5 out of 5 extra points done. Also, Baylor didn't punt the ball at all. They always went for it on 4th down. But kick returns. Baylor did have a couple kickoffs. And what did they do? They kicked that thing straight to Rayshawn Pleasant twice. First time, Rayshawn called a fair catch, and Hugh Freeze got mad because he was like, "You could have ran with that." And he told the special teams coordinator, he's like, "Hey, next time, you better let him go," because I gave him all clear. Second go around, Rayshawn Blessing gets that ball, and oh my God, this was right after a Baylor touchdown too, and I think it really set the tone for the remainder of the game. Because at one point it was like, okay, well, Baylor's like trying to get back into this. They're now within a touchdown. And then boom, Rayshawn Pleasant, 98 yards to the house. First time since 2019, Auburn gets a kickoff return touchdown. And oh my God, Rayshawn Pleasant was flying down the field. Again, 98 yards down. And that was absolutely ridiculous to watch. I want to say around the 20, 25 yard line, I started having some hope that he was gone. And then I'm going to give a massive shout out here to Malcolm Simmons. I tweeted out last night. Malcolm Simmons probably had the biggest part to play in that play because he was the lead blocker all the way down. And, Auburn blocked the ball extremely well. No penalties on the play. Blocked down perfectly fine and great. Not perfect fine. Great. They blocked down the field great. Malcolm Simmons was right there with the Rayshawn Pleasant the whole way and was keeping guys out of his face. Well, a Baylor guy came up behind Malcolm, and Malcolm was like at this point around the 20-yard line on the other side of the field, was like trailing Rayshawn, just kind of keeping the guys off his back. Well, the Baylor guy caught up to Malcolm and pushed Malcolm forward, and Malcolm had the control to slow down his feet and stay off of Rayshawn's legs and back. And that played a massive part into this because had Malcolm not had the control and awareness that he was about to get pushed, he would have got knocked out of bounds like the 10-yard line. And again, Auburn probably would have scored there just because they ran the ball so well. But I think a lot of what happened in this game happened because Auburn was making big plays like this and making momentum changing plays. Like anytime Baylor got the momentum, Auburn made plays to get it right back. And again, that's something I love to see out of this Auburn team in general. But yeah, Rayshawn Pleasant. Jackson Arnold, kind of debating here. Rayshawn Pleasant made a great play, and I think he's like up there in my debate for this. But the college loop player of the game is going to be Jackson Arnold. He made plays when he needed to. He made plays when he had to. He made plays whenever he wanted to. He did everything at will in this game. Leading, I think I just read this somewhere. Jackson Arnold's actually the leading rusher in the SEC. And, I mean, no shocker there. I mean, 8.6 yards per carry. Dude was an absolute dog. 27 yards was his longest rush of the day. Just made plays when he needed to, man. And I love it so much. Auburn ran for 308 yards. And, again, it's one of those things. This is not going to be something I'm going to see out of Auburn every single week. I think Auburn is going to have days where they're probably going to struggle to run the football. And it's going to be how they adjust to that. But that's going to be weeks from now. Auburn has time to fix the mistakes that they had in this game. And a lot of that's defensively, which, I'm shocked to have said that. A lot of the issues Auburn has right now is defensively. Tackling, missed coverages, penalties. A lot of that falls into the defense. Offense got out of this game unscathed. No turnovers. And, you didn't show off too much passing-wise. Baylor was ready for your passing game, but they apparently weren't ready for Auburn's ability to run the football. But yeah, I'm just thinking in the comment section below, what do you think of Auburn's performance versus Baylor? Again, it is a great weekend to be an Auburn Tiger. It's going to be a great week to be an Auburn Tiger. Alabama, of course, got their butt kicked by Florida State every way from Sunday. Thank you, Gus Malzahn. The Gus bus is back on track, possibly in Tallahassee. But yeah, I'm super stoked for that as well. I've always been a Gus Malzahn supporter, a Gus Malzahn appreciationist. It's the name of my college pick'ems with my family is Gus Malzahn appreciationist. And I'm super stoked to see Gus Malzahn get back into the limelight like this. I love Gus Malzahn. They can never make me hate Gus Malzahn. And I know I'm one of the few people on the Whirlpool Podcast Network that actually will sit there and defend Gus Malzahn tooth and nail, but I will. He had a game plan for Alabama. Alabama did not look great. They looked abysmal on a lot of fronts. Defensively, offensively, they look confused. And Florida State's defense was nothing to brag about. They gave up plays, but Alabama did not make plays in return to score the football. Yeah, I'm stoked about this weekend. Auburn looked great. Bama looked bad. Is any other SEC game standing out to me? I mean, LSU could potentially be a national threat. And again, I think most people were expecting them to be, but then again, I think LSU definitely is a team that should be, talked about like that. Because, and again, I predicted Clemson to win this game because I was expecting Clemson to their offense to be a lot better than they were, but LSU shocked me, and I'm not surprised by that. I mean, Georgia killed Marshall, no shocker there. Texas, Ohio State, Arch Manning was okay at the end of the game, but started off extremely rough. So we'll get to see how Texas evolves over time. A lot of teams killed some no-name D2 or G5 schools. Nothing surprising about some of these games. A&M struggled early versus UTSA, meep, but they were not able to get it done. Arkansas was struggling early versus Alabama A&M. That one was almost a rough one to behold. It would have been kind of funny if it happened, but it did not, sadly. But yeah, the SEC is wide open. Of course, right now I think the favorite is Georgia and LSU. Of course, today it's pre-recorded. Today South Carolina's playing Virginia Tech, so get to see how South Carolina looks against a ACC team. Of course, it doesn't bode well if we're on track record right now of Alabama, but I like South Carolina in that game. I picked them to win already, but I'll let you know what I think of that game on Monday. Whenever I see y'all next. Of course, pre-recorded show today, doing so we can spend this weekend celebrating my fiance's birthday. So we'll talk about that on the Monday edition or the Tuesday edition of the College League Podcast. Let me show you the new logo, soft launch. So I'm not changing everything just yet, but I do want to soft launch that logo. Just kind of see how everyone feels about it. Let us know in the game comment section below. What did I miss in this recap and review of Auburn's massive win over the Baylor Bears? Let me just in the comment section below. Of course, I'm Dylan Larck on Twitter. I'm on Instagram as well at Dylan Larck, DYLNLARCK. You got me literally everywhere. I boy the tank. That's gonna be on TikTok too and Twitter. And of course, right here on the College League Podcast, like, comment, subscribe. Getting so very close to that 1,000 subscriber mark. Be super cool to reach that milestone extremely soon. We're 44 away. So super stoked to get to that milestone, and I can feel it coming. It's coming soon. It's coming during football season. I already know it. But that being said, thanks for tuning in to the College League Podcast yet again. And as always, War Eagle and Roll Tears Roll.